The date is September 17, 1909. And God tells us again, the message for today is Revelation 18. This is Prophets and Kings, page 187, taken from Review and Herald, volume 6, page 382, which is November 20, 1913. So, dear ones, God has clearly stated over and over again that the message of Revelation 18 is already the message for today, that it is now to be given. And why is this? Because the loud cry of the third angel has already begun and was already swelling into a loud cry, and thus was already lightening the earth with its glory. Friends, don't you see what time we are living in today? We are living in the time of the latter rain, the time of the swelling of the loud cry. Don't you see what honor God is holding out to each one of us? The blessed honor and privilege to have a part now in helping to swell this message into the loudest cry possible, and to now fill this earth with the glory of God. Brothers and sisters, what blessed possibilities are lovingly held out to each one of us? Shall not we grasp them? Please do not allow the devil to hold you in a position of inaction by believing a futuristic doctrine that it is not yet time for the latter rain to fall, or that it is not yet time to give this last message of mercy, or that it is not yet time for the probation for all of the Babylonian churches to be closed, or that it is not yet time to separate from them all, or that the beginning of the loud cry is not yet here, or has not yet begun to swell, because all of these statements are a lie. We are told in Selected Messages, Book 2, page 114, the work to be done now is that of sounding this last message of mercy to a fallen world. The work will grow deeper and become more earnest to the very close of time, and all who are laborers together with God will contend most earnestly for the faith once delivered to the saints. They will not be turned from the present message which is already lightening the earth with its glory. Nothing is worth contending for but the glory of God. The only rock that will stand is the Rock of Ages. The truth as it is in Jesus is the refuge in these days of error. And we're told in Fundamentals of Christian Education on page 362 and 363. The messenger turned to the congregation and said, "Do you believe the prophecies? Do you know the truth? Understand that the last message of warning is now being given to the world? The last call of mercy is now being heard? Do you believe that Satan has come down with great power, working with all deceivableness of unrighteousness in every place? Do you believe that great Babylon has come up in remembrance before God, and that soon she will receive from God's hand double for all her sins and iniquities?" And then listen. If the enemy can keep workers out of the field on any pretext, he will do so. And now we come to section number 5. What happens after the message is given? So what happens after this message of Revelation 18 is given? We're told in Bible Commentary, Volume 7, page 983. This is manuscript 175, 1899. When the earth is lightened with the glory of the angel of Revelation 18, the religious elements, good and evil, will awake from slumber. What awakens both good and evil religious elements out of their sleep? It was the light of the message of Revelation 18, or the message of the righteousness of Christ of the third angel, and the message of separation to Christ from the corrupt church combined together. Or in other words, it was the loud cry that woke them up. So when these two messages are combined together, they swell into the loud cry. And this cry is what awakens both God's followers and the followers of the devil out of their slumber. Both groups will then make a decision, either for or against these messages, and thus you will see two parties being formed. One party accepts and embraces this message, but the other party will reject it. But it was the preaching of the message of Revelation 18, or the loud cry, that woke them out of their sleep. I hope you can now begin to realize the importance of this Babylon is the church message of Revelation 18, because it is this very message which clearly identifies those who will be the chosen vessels of God versus those who will be the agents of the devil. It is this message of Revelation 18 that you can discern between who is who's working for God and who is not working for God. We're told in Review and Herald, March 19, 1895. This is Volume 3, page 239. The Lord is soon to come. There must be a refining, winnowing process in every church, for there are among us wicked men who do not love the truth. There is need of a transformation of character. Will the church arise and put on her beautiful garments, the righteousness of Christ? It is soon to be seen who are vessels unto honor. And after these things I saw another angel come down from heaven, having great power, and the earth was lightened with his glory. And he cried mightily with a strong voice, saying, Babylon the great is fallen, and is become the habitation of devils, and the hold of every foul spirit, and a cage of every unclean and hateful bird. Then shall ye return and discern between the righteous and the wicked, between him that serveth God and him that serveth him not. For behold, the day cometh that shall burn as an oven, and all the proud, yea, and all that do wickedly shall be stubble. And the day that cometh shall burn them up, saith the Lord of hosts, and it shall leave them neither root nor branch. But unto you that fear my name shall the Son of Righteousness arise with healing in his wings. And then she says, Here are brought plainly to view those who will be vessels unto honor, for they will receive the latter rain. Every soul that continues in sin in the face of the light now shining upon our pathway will be blinded and accept the delusions of Satan. We are now nearing the close of this world's history. Where are the faithful watchmen on the walls of Zion who will not slumber, but faithfully declare the time of night? So it is this message, this Babylonian message of Revelation 18, which allows all to clearly distinguish between those who are really following and working for God versus those who are really following and working for the devil. As this is true, where are you in this scenario? Are you working for, or do you desire to work for God by plainly and boldly giving the message that Babylon is the church, fallen because of her errors and sins, because of her rejection of the truth sent to her from heaven? If not, may God fully awaken you out of sleep to realize your dire situation in these few remaining moments of Earth's history. And may He grant you the courage to stand up and be counted for God, to be counted on His side through your life and through the message which you bear to others. But remember, it is this message of Revelation 18 that awakens both the good and the bad, and then after this message is given, the evil religious elements who hate this message and will do everything they can to try and stop it will be led even to the point of passing laws to hinder it. And this, of course, leads to the Sunday law being passed and enforced. But is this really true? Is it really the loud cry being given that brings on the crisis of the Sunday law? And not the Sunday law being passed and enforced that brings on the time for the message of the loud cry to be given? We are told in Volume 4, The Spirit of Prophecy, page 424 and 425, the timing of these events. and please pay particular attention to the events as I read through them. The sins of Babylon will be laid open. The fearful results of a union of church and state, the inroads of spiritualism, the stealthy but rapid progress of the papal power, all will be unmasked. By these solemn warnings, the people will be stirred. Thousands upon thousands have never listened to words like these. In amazement, they hear the testimony that Babylon is the church, fallen because of her errors and sins, because of her rejection of the truth sent to her from heaven. The people go to their former teachers with the eager inquiry, "Are these things so?" The ministers present fables, prophesy smooth things to soothe their fears and quiet the awakened conscience. But many, and praise God for the many, but many refuse to be satisfied with the mere authority of men and demand a plain, "Thus saith the Lord." The popular ministry, like the Pharisees of old, are filled with anger as their authority is questioned. They denounce the message as of Satan and stir up the sin-loving multitudes to revile and persecute those who proclaim it. As the controversy extends into new fields, the minds of the people are called to God's downtrodden law. Satan is astir. The power attending the message only maddens those who oppose it. The clergy put forth almost superhuman efforts to shut away the light lest it should shine upon their flocks. By every means at their command, they endeavor to suppress the discussion of these vital questions. The church appeals to the strong arm of civil power, and in this work, papists are solicited to come to the help of Protestants. The movement for Sunday enforcement becomes more bold and decided. The law is invoked against commandment keepers. So did you follow the scenario of the events as they took place? It was the giving of the third and fourth angel's message. It was the loud cry that awoke the people out of their sleep. They then began to inquire, "Are these things so?" The ministers then began to try and quiet their conscience by various means. And when they saw that that failed because the people demanded a plain "Thus saith the Lord" instead of a "Thus saith man" or a "Thus saith the church," they then began to appeal to the state to pass laws to stop these people from preaching the message. And that led to the Sunday law being enforced. So the messages of the third and fourth angel, the loud cry, are given first. And then the wicked religious elements awake, and then the Sunday law is enforced, and the crisis comes. So the message brings on the crisis, and it is not the crisis that brings on the message. Please understand this. Let me read another testimony. This is Prophets and Kings, page 187 to 188. Today, as in the days of Elijah, the line of demarcation between God's commandment-keeping people and the worshippers of false gods is clearly drawn. "How long halt ye between two opinions?" Elijah cried. "If the Lord be God, follow him. But if Baal, then follow him." This is 1 Kings 18:21. And the message for today is, "Babylon the great is fallen, is fallen. Come out of her, my people, that ye be not partakers of her sins, and that ye receive not of her plagues. For her sins have reached unto heaven, and God hath remembered her iniquities." Revelation 18:2, 4, and 5. And then she says, "The time is not far distant when the test will come to every soul. The observance of the false Sabbath will be urged upon us." So inspiration has plainly declared that it is the Revelation 18 message of the loud cry which is given first, and then it is this truth that what brings on the crisis of the Sunday law. And it is not what the majority of independent ministers and ministries have been telling God's people for years now, that the Sunday law must come first, and then this is what signals the time for the loud cry to begin. It is the loud cry that brings on the crisis of the Sunday law, and it's not the other way around, as we have been told for many years now. In Last Day Events on page 190, this is letter 94, July 3, 1900. God plainly tells us, "We have the truth, which in its proclamation is to bring the crisis for this world's history." So what is to bring the crisis for this world's history? The proclamation of the truth which we already have. In other words, the loud cry of Revelation 18 is to be given to the world, and that is what brings on the crisis for this world's history. Friends, these are the last messages of mercy that will ever come to God's people, and it's time now to rise up to obey and loudly proclaim these life and death messages to any and all who will hear, whether they will hear or whether they will forbear. The question is, will you obey God or will you obey man? Will you remain silent in obedience to men, or will you stand up and loudly proclaim these messages to any and all who will hear? What will you do? Now we come to the last section, section 6, which deals with the importance of following this message yourself and joining this movement of God. So how important is it to follow this message yourself and join this Revelation 18 movement of God? We found earlier that all churches, including the Seventh-day Adventist Church, are represented as making up Babylon the Great. And God is calling all of His followers to come out and separate from all denominations, out of every one of them, because they have all drunk of the wine of the wrath of her fornication. They are all connected with Babylon. And any who refuse to leave their harlot church will be held corporately responsible for her sins and will be destroyed along with her. But how is this possible? How can a message that centers in Christ and His righteousness, and a message of separation out of all the harlot churches, be combined together into one harmonious package? Aren't they at conflict with each other?